Hi, welcome to my channel. Are you considering if you should use your smartphone or buy a camera for your next epic holiday? Are you perhaps just curious about the differences between a phone and camera in 2022? Or maybe you had a friend who made such a comment on your photo taken by your $3,000 camera and you would like to throw him some evidence that your camera is superior? Whatever the reason is, let's begin. In this video, you will play 7 games to compare photos in the same scene taken by smartphones and a mirrorless camera. You can skip to here if you don't want to listen to some of my explanations. The comparisons will be between unedited photos first, then between filtered photos. The reason to also add filtered photos is because most photographers edit their photos in post-production software such as Lightroom. So it would be a bit unfair to compare a raw unedited photo taken by a camera with a smartphone photo enhanced by digital computation. The phones I used in these videos are iPhone 13, Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV. Sony, can't you make a simple naming such as PS5? The mirrorless camera I used in this video is the Sony A7 IV. The motivation for creating this video is mainly to help people see a general difference between a phone and a camera without going too much into technical details. And what's good enough for one person might be a complete disaster for another person. So I will show you side-by-side differences and you can decide by yourself. Now let's begin the game. In game 1, we have 3 photos taken by 3 devices. The focus points are all on the first flag. Maybe that's too fast. Now let's check them one by one. Which one do you prefer? The answer is A is the mirrorless camera, B is the iPhone, and C is the Sony smartphone. My apology that the compositions are a bit different because each device has different focal length. Especially the iPhone 13 doesn't have a telephoto lens, but they should still help you to see a difference between the color, depth of field, and details. And later comparisons will have a more similar composition. The game 2 is what I call a typical touristy shot. You go to an attraction, a place of interest, then you take this photo. Can you spot the difference between those 3? The answer is A is the mirrorless camera, B is the Sony smartphone, C is the iPhone. I have to say in this type of scenario there isn't really a significant difference between those photos. Yes, the photo taken by the mirrorless camera looks softer, while the photos by the smartphones look too sharp and lack of depth. But that's because I'm viewing them on a large monitor. What type of idiots check their photos on a TV? In all seriousness, the smartphones perform well in this scenario, especially the color looks saturated, which can be attractive for many people. Now, the game 3 is the same memorial tree as the one in game 2, but this shot will include a nice background of a near town. The answer is A is the iPhone, B is the mirrorless camera, and C is the Sony smartphone. Now this shot is at a contrasty place, thus the unedited photo from a mirrorless camera just looks bad. This is a type of scenario where HDR can really shine. And as you can see from the iPhone photo, the unedited photo looks decent. But maybe it would look better with a more creamy background. In game 4, we are again at a contrasty place. Which one do you prefer? I know many of those photos will get frowned upon by photographers because you're not supposed to take photos under such bright sunlight. But hey, I like going out during good weather and I like taking photos to capture the moment. And not everyone can have the patience to wait for the golden hour. The answer for game 4, A is the mirrorless camera, B is the Sony smartphone, and C is the iPhone. I've also lengthened the shutter speed of the mirrorless camera to make the water look a bit more smooth. This is possible even without an ND filter and a tripod, although it will look much better with them. But it's going to be very difficult for smartphones because they can't have a small aperture to compensate the long shutter speed. But if you only want to capture the moment, the HDR photo from smartphones look decent. Now, game 5 with only 2 devices, one is the mirrorless camera and the other is the Sony smartphone. Okay, I know they're not exactly similar photos, and it's probably quite obvious that A is the mirrorless camera. But the problem with computational photography from smartphones is that in order to get that fake creamy background, your subject has to be close to the camera. For iPhone, it's between 0.5 meters and 2.5 meters. This restraint basically means photos like these are not possible to capture nicely with a smartphone. With that being said, let's go to game 6. Not sure if you can tell the difference, but it's very obvious to me that B is the mirrorless camera. Again, because the subject is further away, smartphones in 2022 cannot produce a nice foreground blur. And adding some foreground blur is a common technique to add more layers to the photo to make your subject stand out a bit more. Also, the far away subject looks a bit blurry due to the small sensor size from a smartphone. The same scenario can carry on to game 7. Can you now tell which one is taken by a mirrorless camera? Okay, now the conclusion from my personal opinion. If you absolutely don't want anything to do with the photo after you shot them, then a smartphone is probably better for you. Because an unedited photo from a camera may not look as attractive as from a smartphone, especially if you are shooting photos under bright sunlight. If you don't mind spending a bit of time editing photos, then I strongly recommend using the camera. I want to also address the issues of feeling nervous when using the camera. Oh my god, do I look like a weirdo or a tourist when using the camera? I had a similar thought before, but if you think about it this way, when you are holding a camera, you're really in your first person view, and you can't really see yourself holding the camera being weird, right? And I have shot many walking videos using a camera on a gimbal. Imagine how stand out I would be. But when I check the footage after the shot, the most I see are people's smiles and curiosity towards me more than, oh my god, there's a weirdo. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. I left a link below in the description if you're more interested in human portrait differences. And please like and subscribe if you like this type of content. It can really help the channel. I'll see you next time.